Hey, we are live. It's what it says in the little corner of my screen, so that's a plus. Um, Welcome to the secular hangout area. I am Chris, aka. I forgot to mute my other thing. Um, it's weird hearing yourself talk. I am Chris, aka Godless Journey. With me today is David.
That's right, also known as the Graceful Atheist.
And today we also have Justin.
Hello. From God is Not Good.
Yes, I've seen some of his videos. He does good work. He's driving in his car today, so excuse any obscenities he may throw out with other drivers.
No. No good drivers around here.
And we are also waiting on Heather from Forsaking Faith. She is joining us very shortly, which is apt because today is her topic, decision. But anyway, just as a quick overview of what we're trying to do here, David and I met on the Twitters, as they say.
Yes.
How the cool kids are saying. And we found that there was just a lack of good community in the blah blah blah, the atheist world, the secular world. There's no real good replacement for that community has as a church. So we thought we'd try to start something up here, and that's what we're doing. And looks like Heather's having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Chris. I'll chat. I'll just talk.
Yeah, you talk. I'll figure this out.
While you can do technical stuff. So.
I will say on that note, I noticed when I started making videos and everything, the atheist community is one of the most welcoming communities that I have ever been a part of. It's absolutely astounding.
I definitely think
like
that's
as soon
true.
as soon as I started doing anything at all online, like I think within a week of being actually involved on YouTube, I had talked with like Vice Rhino, Cosmological, all kinds of guys, and had good conversations. It's just a very, very nice space to be in.
Definitely, I think what Chris and I are shooting for is, also a space where people can talk through kind of the deconversion process, what they've gone through, where they were at before, where they are now. That kind of thing.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I think the community online is definitely welcoming. I don't disagree with you at all. What we're I think trying to accomplish here is to build on that, right? To build something where people can really start to, I don't know, be vulnerable, express themselves, talk about.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. So, Justin, just since you're new to us, would you mind just telling us a brief, like a 3-minute intro of who you are and what you do and that kind of thing?
Well, my name is Justin. I live in bumfuck Southville, as I like to call it, and I'm currently in college. I'm double majoring in vocal performance and theater. I started a YouTube channel about 4 months ago now, and haven't uploaded in a month. Computer that should be changing in the next couple days here, and yeah, I think I'm at like 435 subscribers right now.
Awesome.
My most popular series is basically just going over like children's cartoons about the Bible and picking them apart and explaining why they're not good for kids.
Interesting. I'm gonna definitely have to go look at some of those. So, okay, cool. And it looks like we have Heather online. Welcome.
This is Christine.
Oh, Christine. Sorry.
Heather.
I don't think any of us have actually met in person.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Hi.
Yeah. Hi, how's it going?
Good. Heather has a prior engagement, but we'll definitely be on in the future, so you can plan to see and hear both of us.
Excellent. Fantastic. And I think that one or both of you had suggested the topic for the day about kind of the life stages that we were in when we experienced deconversion. Is that correct?
Yeah. I thought it was a unique topic. So I'll just introduce myself a little bit because God is not good. I haven't met you before, I don't think, or interacted with you. So Heather and I are starting a podcast soon. We want it to be really useful to people, so it's taking forever. But so yeah, that'll be on. It's called Forsaking Faith. So I just wanted to tell everybody about that. And then
Absolutely.
and yeah, my partner Heather, who will be with us in the future. But yeah, I was interested in how deconversion, because I deconverted in college, which I've met a lot of people who have, and talked about them with their stories. But I noticed, I think maybe Godless Journey, right? Deconverted when he was married, right? Is that right?
Yep, just shy of a year ago now.
Right. So, and that's an entirely different stage of life, I think. So I just would love to hear how that molded your relationships and, your life at that time. So that's what made me think of it, because I was reading Godless Journey's, his intro blog. That's why
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And Christine, can you tell us just 2 minutes just about yourself? Maybe
Sure.
a story about what happened in college and.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not everything that happened in college.
Let's say what happens in college.
So Heather and I actually went to the same school. We went to a fundamentalist Christian school in New York, and it was really, it was interesting because it felt like a family, but a family that was watching everything you did. So, like, even my mom didn't really look that closely into my life, So we actually grew apart. I mean, we weren't really friends then. And then after college, so I went through my deconversion in college, and she went through much later. And so we just started talking about how those similarities and differences happened at the same, throughout our journey. So for me, I think I've always been a doubter, definitely been more Thomas than Paul, or Thomas than Matthew. I guess you got to pick another one. But so, and for a long time, I was just like, no, Jesus said, blessed are those who don't see and still believe. And I'm like, that's me. I don't see a thing.
That would put you in the majority.
Yeah, definitely. And so it was, part of that sort of long-term doubt that had sort of led me to deconvert. In college, I met a friend, and he was like, why do you believe? And I was like, well, I mean, I had a great argument, but I realized it was just an argument. And so there's a lot that came from that. And then, but Heather, who will be, I hope she joins us in the future, but was a really devout Christian. She didn't have any doubt in the beginning. And it's really interesting to see how contrasting, we both are. So our stories are cool, and we'll definitely talk more about them. But that's a little bit about me. Just
excellent, very cool. Okay, Chris, I don't know if you want to keep running with this or if you want me to, but I think maybe we'll just go through the room here, and we'll talk about where we were in our lives, and maybe what some of the precipitating things were that made us cause us to doubt.
Sure. Well, for me and my headset. For me, it was I was also always skeptical growing up, but I never applied that skepticism to religion. I mean, I remember even in 8th grade, we had a science teacher who was like, "Oh, you can create a super solution and it'll evaporate into crystals." And I was like, So I went home and I tried exactly what she did, and it didn't work. And I went back the next day. I'm like, that didn't work. She's like, "Oh, you tried that?" I'm like, "Yeah, you said it would work." So she's like, "Well, try it with sugar instead of salt." And the sugar one did work. So that's just an example of like the things that I did. I always wanted to know more, to tinker. But again, I never applied that to religion because everyone else believed it, so it had to be true, right? Typical ad populum fallacy, which is super fun. But as I grew up, I got into leadership in the church and was very heavily involved in especially the worship team. I led the worship team for a while, and eventually my wife and I just kind of stopped going to church. And during that time, I wrestled with a lot of questions and had a lot of, kind of like, it makes more sense that the universe is chaotic and just random than there's a God who's actively wanting to be in a personal relationship with me. Shannon, what is a worship team? Worship team is the musical portion of a worship service. Our church was very big on that. Full electric guitars, drums, bass, all that stuff. So I was in charge of that at our site. And I did sing, and don't ask me to sing right now because I'm so out of practice. I haven't sung in probably 2 years now.
There aren't any good secular, praising secular.
Yes.
Praising humanism songs anyway, right? So
yeah.
No worries on that.
Well, it's funny, and now I'm getting off on a tangent, but that's all right. I still like that genre of music, and there's not really anything like that in the secular world.
Yeah.
With the harmonies and the instrumentation, and it's funny because our worship pastor who was over me, he was always like, yeah, we want it to sound like songs sound on the radio so people are engaging in it, but it doesn't. And it has, the same setup, but the songs themselves are structured differently. And I actually do plan on doing a whole satire on how to lead worship in a future video, but that's going
to be fun. That is going to
I'll have to find a pair of skinny jeans. They won't look good on me, but but yeah, during that time, so we weren't going to church. We weren't active in a church, and my wife was invited to be the godmother to one of her friends. We went to her church, and the first thing that pops up on the video announcements was, "Come buy our coffee at the thing. It's the best of this side of the Mississippi." And I went, wait, what? This is just a business. This is just another way for someone to get money out of people. And at that point, I kind of shut everything off, and I started actually analyzing things. Got onto like the Atheist Experience YouTube hole, and I was on that for months, binging all that content. But it showed me different arguments and different. I'm gonna go with Kent Hovind, evidences of things that disprove, not necessarily disprove God, but pull away from the proofs that I had of God. That's how I ended up here with a bunch of other secular heathens talking about this kind of stuff.
Welcome.
Well, I know you guys have been doing this for a while, right? How long?
Since December, I think was our first one.
Not too long.
Okay. Yeah, we're just, again, I think what we both recognize is how much we needed some community, some other people to talk to about what we've gone through, and it exists out there. It's not that it doesn't exist, but it's so hard to find it locally, especially if you don't happen to live in a city, that kind of thing. We want to start something where we could just have it kind of organically grow, and so hopefully people start. Yeah.
Look, we doubled.
That's right. This is I call that success.
2 squared.
That's right.
We squared. Maybe we'll square again.
That's right.
A little,
exponential.
Do you want to go ahead and Christine tell us then?
Oh, sure.
Life phase that you were in when you started out.
Yeah, sure. I didn't mean to. I just. I thought I heard my daughter, so I was just worried. So yes, I was I was, like I said, I was a doubting Thomas, doubting Thomasina. And I actually was the communications chair, basically, for my basic group. Do you know what basic is? Brothers and Sisters in Christ. It's a college group. Have you heard of it? God is Not Dead. Oh, did he disappear?
I'm sorry.
He's driving, so he may have muted himself.
Oh, got it. Okay, that's safe. But be safe. You have nowhere to go if you die, so.
Yeah, my connection keeps cutting out. It's just weird over here.
Yeah, so I was actually advertising that for a Valentine's Day party that we had. It was we were just doing it to get people into basic, you know, the whole get everybody, you know, you got to reach out and make sure you're spreading God's word. And no, I'm just kidding.
Yes. No guilt, no pressure.
And so I stood up in front of my 200-person class and I said, hey, we're having a Valentine's Day party. Come if you don't have, you know, someone to love. Jesus is here to love you, you know. So and this guy who probably thought I was, you know, a sexy thing. No, I don't know. But he talked to me after and he's like, oh, that's pretty cool that you know, stood up and whatever. So actually we became friends from that. And he was the one who asked me why I believed and whether I'd ever doubted. And he was a big part of how I deconverted. Not why. I feel like it would have happened eventually, but you never know. And our conversations sort of flowed, you know, from that. And I started realizing that I've always doubted. I've never really felt grounded in faith. And I was like, well, wait a minute, then maybe this isn't where I need to be. And as I realized, like, I think just the vastness of how many truths there are out there, you know, the Islamic truths, the Hindu truth, I can say Buddhist, although I feel like I connect there a lot more now, you know, than I did with Christianity.
Sure.
But sort of that, I'm just like, this isn't the only reason it feels to me that people stay in these truths and believe these truths is because they're raised in them, or there is a need for them. You know, maybe they feel a need and they can't find anything else to fill that hole. You know, it's this sort of you know, I wish I was in the last conversation because that sort of has a humanism, you know, can you be anti-theist in humanism? I've definitely thought of that, like, well, you know, I respect the people who need that idea and maybe they're right, you know, fine, whatever. But for me, I was like, no, this is not real to me. When I was a little girl, I remember my girlfriend, who was the pastor's daughter, was always prophesied over, you know, always. And one day I was like, God, seriously, just talk to me. Just this once. Like, just have him, like, say anything to me. Like, you'll be a great leader or you'll be a shitty leader. You know, like, just let me know. And when I watched him prophesy over my friend, I was like, this is so fabricated. It felt really fabricated. And from that point, you know, I went through this, like, didn't go to church. I stopped going to the dance team. I stopped wanting to sing on the worship team. So that was really like the core spot. I still, like, to this day, I'm like, yo, God, you know, if you feel, you know, like, God looks upon the heart. I don't mean to, like, do air quotes. Like, you're looking. I'm here. I see no evidence. So why don't you just, like, show me? You know, so there's still, like, this possibility of God out there. But I can say, and it feels really good to say, that I don't believe in God anymore. It feels so great. I don't believe in Jesus. I remember when I was in college, I thought I was so scared to say those words. I was so scared to say, I don't believe in Jesus. You know, it felt like I was giving up. You know, giving place to the devil or whatever. You know, but I'm like, now it's like, yes, free at last. So
I used to describe it as like trying to keep the plate spinning, right? You're kind of wrestling with your own intellect to, you know, I can't look into this area too closely or that plate's going to fall, right? And like, you know, just trying to almost work up faith
totally.
as the doubt is starting to creep in. So
yeah, I remember I almost took I think it was a sociology class, something really, so it was like, I don't remember, but the first thing we talked about was evolution, and so I dropped the class. So I hear you. Yeah, it was like, wait a minute, this isn't real. Why are you like? Now I'm of course I like have done biology for the last 4 years, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I don't see God here.
Yeah, I remember getting into a debate with my earth science teacher about the fact that water goes off your back the same way it does go down a fish's back, and how it's kind of proof of common descent. I was like, no, that's ridiculous. I don't believe that for a second. And yeah, well.
yeah.
I mean, you know, intelligent design has a lot of really great, insightful things to say, but I'm not sure I can, you know, can't really back any of them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to assert. It's another thing to actually provide the evidence.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
I could have been a deist. You know, like he's like, yeah, okay, let's see how this works. All right, you guys do your thing. Okay. If there is a God, I'm certain he doesn't. Well, I'm almost certain he doesn't have anything to do with us. You know.
Yeah.
Why.
Or she, or it.
Yeah, sure. Not
indefinite they.
Fundamentalist God's definitely a male though. Fail. At least that's what all my male teachers told me.
Yeah, funny that. I think I hear Justin. Justin, do you want to jump in here and tell us your kind of where you were at?
Yeah, here. Just give me half a second here.
Sure. Yeah, be safe if you're driving still.
Yeah, I just arrived at my destination, and my friend was running towards me. And
your friend.
If you could turn that down real quick.
your
friend. Running towards me. So I was thinking about the phrase that really I had a problem with actually ever using when I was coming out of my faith was God damn it. And and it's just so vindicating now. It's just so nice. You just, you know, I can say it and I don't have to worry about about being burned to death. Well, not really to death, but burned in death.
Burned in life, yes.
Quite nice.
Yeah. So what was your phase of life? What phase were you in when you were deconverting? Just wondering.
Oop, just a second.
Marvels of modern technology.
I know.
Yeah, it's something. What was the question was about my deconversion?
Yeah, like
about what time in your life?
What time of your life?
Well, I'm only 19 now.
Oh, okay.
I'm very young in the community. According to YouTube, I think it's 99.5 or something % of my audience is younger than me. But but I started coming out of it, I think, about when I was 18, honestly. And before that point, there was a point in my life where I wanted to be a youth pastor, so I was very, very involved. And
something real quick. Hi guys.
Hello, unknown person.
Yes, hello.
About, I guess it was 3 or 4 years ago, when Justin and I first really met. It was really interesting, because he kept trying to get me to go to church with him, and I would always come up with really amazing excuses like, no, I have to do the dishes. Maybe next time.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But oddly enough, it's very strange to think back on. One of the major things that did get me, I guess, to start questioning, because there was about a year where I was really, really busy and just didn't go to church as often. So not being around it kind of helped to get me away from, I guess you could say, the spell of it. And there was a point where I started watching Doctor Who, which it doesn't seem like it would be relevant, but I seeing it was actually seeing the like the vast quantities of time in that show, and how seeing into the future of what the world they've created in that show, and how everything is so interconnected and all of that. And the idea to me that a god could at any point just snap his fingers and call everyone back and, well, that's the end of the universe, you guys had a good run. It just seemed so it just disgusted me, the fact that was a central tenet of the religion. And I was just like, why is that a good thing? To have everything that we've worked for all these years just taken away in half a second, just because, oh, it's time. And that was actually one of the things that got me to start thinking about it, because I was like, well, that doesn't sound like a positive thing to me necessarily. So what other things in my religion are messed up? It actually was so recent for me that I deconverted that I have distinct memories of watching the Ken Ham Bill Nye debate years ago when it came out, and I think I only watched about half of it, but I disgustingly remember thinking, this Australian guy's got some good points.
I remember it was Christmas Eve, and you were texting me, and you were reading through your Bible, and you were like, I've been thinking, this is all just, is this PG or what?
Yeah, go for it.
This is like complete fucking bullshit. And I was just like, and he's come to his senses.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure took me long enough.
Yeah.
Well, I got you on there. I think I'm by far the oldest person here. So,
By far? I don't know. Not sure.
I'm in my late 40s, so
he old.
Yeah.
Old. Just kidding.
I'm
qualify for art soon.
Yeah, I'm Generation X over here, guys.
How long have you been deconverted?
About two and a half years now, so 2015 sometime.
Wow.
So
That is a lifetime.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it's really sad. No, and what's even sadder is that I became a Christian as a late teenager. So I was really mostly an adult at the time, and I've written about that a lot. But I was all in as well. I went to Bible college. I was a youth pastor briefly. The things that started to lead up for me were ironically reading through the Bible. And
sure, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Reading things like you mentioned intelligent design, reading Privileged Planet, which I think was maybe the best presentation of intelligent design, and realizing that it had massive holes in it, massive holes in it, and realizing, okay, this is the best argument that I've read so far, and even I think it's not good enough. And just that started to just really, cause me to doubt a lot. And really the internet, man, like the internet is just such a free flow of information. And I started to just occasionally, once in a while, read an article that was from not just a secular perspective, but an atheist perspective. And I think, well, I don't completely disagree with that. And I had long since kind of, accepted a scientific worldview. And somehow I was, without thinking about it too deeply, trying to marry those two things, my faith and science. And as time wore on, that just wasn't going to pan out. So But to answer the original question about life phase, my wife is still a believer, very much so. I have 2 kids who are believers. And so a part of why I wanted to do this as well is to talk about, the humanist part for me is that the relationships in our lives, including the ones with the believers in our lives, are still important. They didn't stop being important because we deconverted. So part of my impetus for this is to be able to talk about that as well. That that I see a lot of people that I think kind of the first reaction when you first deconvert is to get all that anger out, and that's totally normal. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. You should do that. But at some point you start to realize, hey, wait a minute, like the people in my life I still love. These are the people that I want to be with, right? And so I need to have find a way to communicate and to care for those people and that kind of thing. So maybe that's just the old man in me, but that's my perspective.
I mean, Heather and I, our entire podcast is like not just a denial of what this is, but also a celebration sort of our past, of even the Christian lifestyle. And as Chris was saying, like the music, just like the idea of like singing together, sitting down and being thankful for your food before you eat it. There are a lot of things to be celebrated in our faith and our history, and the people around us definitely deserve to feel validated in their thoughts. I don't want to sit with my old girlfriends and be like, yeah, I totally don't believe that. I don't, I mean, I do. I want to be forward with them, but I want to also like show them that there's some understanding in why they believe so hard,
Right.
So I can back you up with that,
Well, and I think that's the unique thing that we're trying to do here is that, if you were all in, if you were a person of faith and you were, even if you had doubts, I don't mean to say that you didn't have doubts, but like you were all in and then you go through a deconversion process, that's unique to maybe somebody who has grown up secular all their lives. That's just a completely different experience. And there's, some unique camaraderie there. And I think what you're saying there, Christine, an ability then to bridge the gap to those people in our lives that are still believers, right? Because you remember what it felt like to feel that way.
Yeah. But Justin,
I was surprised to hear recently. I don't think it was maybe this past week or the week before, in the Thinking Atheist podcast, that Seth's wife is still a believer, which I did not know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow. That I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I was completely unaware. I was kind of surprised when he had said that, but yeah, it's interesting to think of that.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if we can, we're heading on here to pass the half hour. So why don't we talk briefly about maybe something that has helped us in this deconversion process. If there was a book that you read that you loved, if there's a podcast you really want to talk about, particularly if it's your own, Christine. But
it's not even out yet.
Yeah, but maybe just something that you found meaningful. And the reason I'm keying off that is, Christine, you talked about some of the good things, right? Like just being mindful or what have you. But what are some things that are meaningful for you now post deconversion? Let's start with maybe. Go ahead.
No, let's start with Justin. I'd love to hear.
Well, I can't remember exactly who had posted the poll that I saw the other day on Twitter, but it was a poll as to whether the way that you act has been impacted greatly by your deconversion. And I said that no, it hasn't, but I added the stipulation that while what I've done and how I've acted hasn't really changed, the reasons that I do those things have changed substantially, and I think they've changed much for the better. And I think that's something that I value a lot, looking back at it, where now I do things for the right reasons rather than just, well, it's what God would want and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I relate to that a lot. Like I say that my morality has not dramatically changed. The reasons for it have changed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of another nail in the coffin for the objective morality thing, because the way I think has not changed. It's just a matter of why I think that way. It's not just because the almighty Big Brother says so, but it's just that's how I feel, and that's how I decide to live my life, kind of thing.
Yep. All right. Chris, you have anything you want to share that, as far as that was helpful for you or that you find helpful now?
Well, I went to therapy for a good few months afterwards because I just didn't know how to deal with the emotions I was feeling. I didn't know what to do with that, and I never had the tools to cope with that outside of just pray on it, which wasn't going to work anymore.
You never know.
But I then started writing my blog and getting involved on Twitter with the Godless Journey handle and actually interacting with other atheists, and that helped me a lot because it's like I'm not alone, and where I am, it's not like atheists are horrible evil people, but they just aren't out there. So I felt very alone, but having at least an internet friend helped, and I think that's part of what we're trying to do here is to get that part growing, I guess would be the right word. I'm not sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like this is sort of the equivalent of like the Christian church, because I feel like that's part of what brings Christians together, is just that community of church, whereas we don't really have, atheist communion Sunday.
Right. No, that's exactly it. Like, I've said a number of times that just because you stopped believing doesn't mean you don't need belonging, human contact, community. All of those things are inherent goods, and we are we're human beings, and we need those things. And so that again is a driving force for why we're trying to do this. So
yeah, it's interesting here. It's very different from Godless Journey's situation where I live in the deep South and like right in the Bible Belt and East Tennessee area, and it's I don't know if I knew an atheist until I was in 9th, 10th grade. It's
that one being me.
Yeah, maybe, but it's very strange. That's why the internet is really such an important part of me coming out of religion, because it was really the only place where I was even exposed to the possibility of such a thing. Like, I don't remember exactly where I started. I think it was probably the big ones like Jacqueline Glenn and Thinking Atheist podcast a few times, and then I kept looking, and now I look for anybody I can find, just 10, 20 subscribers. Cool, you make interesting videos. Let's see what you talk about, and it's just nice to see, because I don't see it in my day-to-day life that there are other people out there who actually think like I do.
Right.
Part of that's just where we live. Because I mean, where I grew up, I mean, it was chock full of Mormons, but I mean, it wasn't. People didn't go. Like, I'm from Las Vegas, so I mean, we had Mormons and stuff, but like Sin City, people didn't exactly go to church every Sunday unless you were Mormon.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Whereas here, everybody has like a Bible verse in their Instagram bio, and I'm just like, what's a Bible?
So, David, you asked about resources.
Yeah.
And it's 11 years now that I haven't been a Christian, or 10 or 11 years. So it's a long time.
Yeah.
So I can't really remember any resources that I had at the time, but I mean, you said looking at the Bible is a pretty good one, right? Then you got then you have like the other religions and their literature that is like, for me, would be a tell, because it's like, this is the same but different, so how is this? And so I think that it was really just knowing more about the universe that really helped me. But definitely I do want to like add that we will be putting the podcast up. But like I said, our podcast is a resource for people to like, it's a reflection. We're not going to sit there and like bash Christianity, because by no means do I believe that, do I believe that I had a worse life there, It's just sort of this like, it's a hole in your soul that gets filled with community and thoughtfulness and mindfulness. And like, I mean, a lot of my resources was just like 2 a.m. thinking, you know what I mean? It was a lot of like, just, okay, like, how do I rebuild my values? How do where do values come from? There's so many ways that you sort of have to rebuild your life that I think, find resources where you can. I think I really appreciate you guys for inviting us to Secular Hangouts. It's really cool that we have this, and I hope that it becomes something that perpetually grows, for other people. I would, it'd be cool if it stayed small, but certainly seeing it crop up in many different places would be a really cool thing. So I just want to say I really appreciate you, because I really don't have a lot of resources.
Yeah.
And so it's nice that they're coming about,
Well, thank you. And again, I think what we're trying to do, and in fact, I'll just respond here to a couple of people on the chat. They were saying, maybe this isn't a good time window for them to be able to join, and I get that. What I'm really hopeful that will happen, what I think the long-term goal is to have many of these that will kind of organically grow, right? So if you're watching this now and you're interested, and maybe this isn't a good time slot for you, but you'd be willing to maybe lead one or just start one, then that's what we're looking for. I am in no way interested in like branding and popularity. What I'm interested in is having communities grow. And so if you feel like you have the ability to be a community leader and let people express themselves, grieve, learn the whole process, then start one. Let's franchise this thing. Let's make more and more community.
Yeah, maybe we could have a church or a conference.
Yeah.
It'd be cool just to see all the people who are like, I'm lost, but you know what? Hell yeah, I'm now found.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'd be down to have a few little smaller faithless forums going on around the place, because I couldn't make it down there, but I would have loved to.
Is there at least going to be like good wine and decent like crackers?
No,
So,
that's one thing I was gonna say is it's kind of funny. Who was it that was talking about the coffee in the church?
that was me.
It's kind of funny that the thing that got you to start questioning your belief was the very thing that was there to keep you up to hear them in the morning.
Yeah, that's awesome. I did want to mention just a couple of resources. Chris, thank you for being honest and talking about that needing some therapy, man. That's just real, right? People, you need help sometimes. And maybe, I don't know if you have a therapist you want to recommend, but Brian Peck, who is a part of Room for Thrive, he's also participates a lot with Life After God, has a very focused on deconversion. That's his practice, basically. So I can't recommend him enough if anybody's out there that needs somebody to talk to on a more of a formal level. Again, what we're trying to do here, what Forsaking Faith, you guys are going to do a podcast. Justin, you want to talk about your YouTube channel a little bit? Maybe let's just talk about what.
I haven't uploaded anything in a little bit here because I've been dealing with a lot of computer issues, but it's back up and running now. So I'll probably be uploading again in another day or two here. I've got a video from a very new guy, his first video. He was being promoted by a Bible Flock box, so that'll be good. But yeah, it's mainly my most popular is just mainly fighting the indoctrination of children, because that's one of the biggest things that get for me is I feel like so much of my life was, and so many other people's lives are wasted because of the indoctrination when you're a child. Like, you can't choose to have it, you can't choose to stay away from it, and it just stays with you for years and years of your life. So that's the main reason I do that series, and I do a few other things here and there, but yeah, that's my main focus right now.
All right, excellent. Chris, you want to talk about your blog at all?
My blog is slow going. I just moved, so content has been slow. I am getting into the realm of YouTube as well, with some little snarky response videos and stuff like that. So that's just trying to find time to do stuff.
Yeah. And then Christine, do you want to tell us about just a little bit more formally what the podcast will be?
Yes. So what we're really doing is we're trying to reflect on how changes happen for us. So we talk about one of the podcasts that we've already recorded that will be one of the first 4 that are up, 3 or 4 that are up, is on dying. And we reflect on what we thought about death and dying before and what we think about it now, and sort of how our deconversion has planted us, in our new thinking. We're also doing on friendship. So we basically reflect on how deconversion has affected these mini values and life changes. And so that, and basically what we want to do is we want to structure it in a way that we, help introduce some thoughtful questions that might help people work through, their friendships, or work through the fact that death for us now is just, black, because that's huge in terms of fears when you deconvert. And so I think just what I thought of, what I went through when I was thinking about when I was deconverting, is what I'd like to just allow people to work through with our podcast. So, and I think Heather also is, she has some issues. Her parents are still Christian, so she's still, those changes for her are a little bit different than mine. But I think that when we come together as a group in secular hangouts, and by speaking about it in podcasts and YouTube videos and blogs, we find those relatable similarities, and we recognize how our differences make us who we are as, as atheists or agnostics, or, whatever. And I think that's really what our podcast is aiming to do. So
excellent. Can't wait to hear it. I think that'd be
great. Me too.
You guys have a Twitter we can follow to see when the podcasts are coming out, or?
Yeah. You can probably find it's Forsaking Faith at Twitter, at Forsaking Faith. We made all of everything pretty easy. So our email's at forsakingfaith@gmail.com, and we've got, it's pretty much Forsaking Faith. If you type it in, you'll probably be able to find our email or our Twitter account. So yeah, we also have a Facebook, but it's not as active right now because Facebook's outdated.
Yeah, I haven't used Facebook in about 3 or 4 years. I'm considering making a page, but we'll see.
If you want to reach the older community, us.
Yeah,
then you'll want to. But if you want to reach the youth, just get a Snapchat or an Instagram.
I will put a link for everyone's pertinent information in the description afterwards. Just so we
thank you.
I don't know how to get a hold of everybody.
Very cool.
That'd be great. Yeah.
What about your blog, David?
Yeah, so gracefulatheist at wordpress.com. Not terribly technically savvy there, but and I write whenever I get inspired, so it is pretty sporadic. But I try to just talk about the things that keep me thinking up at night. Like what about the deconversion process, that kind of thing. So
I'm always up late, so if you want to, chat,
to,
send me a text and I don't believe in God. I know, me neither, dude. It's fine.
Day 3025. God still doesn't exist. Yes, exactly.
Hey, GA, leave me alone. Oh, JK.
Yeah. So, Chris, are we? I think we're on. Are we on a 2-week cycle at this point for
Yep.
this particular
so I
time
think our
period?
next one's what, the 19th, 20th will be the next one.
Okay. Yeah. And again, just to reiterate for everybody that's on the chat or watching, if you're interested in either participating in this one or maybe starting another one, or anybody on this call who wants to start another one at a different time, let's make that happen. So just talk to Chris and I. You can get us at email, gracefulatheist@gmail.com and godlessjourney@gmail.com. So we're pretty easy. I think you Google us, you're going to get us first with those names. So you can find us, get in touch with us. And
yeah, if you look me up, you might find Christopher Hitchens first. Just maybe.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's probably it for this round.
Yeah, it was great meeting you two newbies, and look forward to more chats.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
All right.
great.
Thanks for having me on.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah.